Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I recently did a video talking about 5 of my favorite pre-spawn baits, and that was all based off of a comment that I got from a viewer who wanted to know specifically what my 5 favorite pre-spawn baits are. Now that is not an easy question to answer. I've got like 20, 30, 40 different baits I'd love to talk about that are good in specific circumstances. But I got to tell you, I got to break it down based on largemouth and smallmouth because when I started this process, I was pulling baits off the rack going, well, this is a good one, this is a good one. And then I was like, well, this is a great one for smallmouth, but it's not necessarily a good one for largemouth, and vice versa. So I figured I would break that into 2 videos. I'll link the pre-spawn largemouth baits in the beginning, but I want to talk about some of my absolute hammer baits when you're considering chasing pre-spawn smallmouth. One of my favorite things to do is catch a giant smallmouth, and these baits catch giant smallmouth around the country, not just up north, but if you're fishing somewhere down the Tennessee River lakes, or if you've got smallmouth down wherever it is that you live, these baits will work. I assure you of that. So I want to get into that. I also want to remind you guys, though, that if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe to the channel if you watch my videos on a somewhat regular basis. Great way to support the channel. And if you are subscribed and you're looking for more content from me, check out my members only stuff where we do additional videos every month. We do monthly live streams. You can have direct access to me. You get easy first dibs on baits coming out through Core Tackles. So there's a lot of perks that you can get by being a member of the channel as well. You can find that on my YouTube homepage. So check that out. All right, guys. So let's dive into pre-spawn smallmouth. Pre-spawn smallmouth are one of those beasts that honestly they can be extremely fickle, and at the same time they can be extremely aggressive to the point where it doesn't matter what baits you throw. But those aren't the hard days to figure out. The hard days are to figure out those days where they're just not in the right mood to eat, and therefore you can go out and easily get skunked if you're talking about fishing in really cold water temperatures, which is what happens a lot of times when you're up here in the North Country. We get the ice that comes off, the water is in the upper 30s, low 40s, and it might take a few weeks for that water to warm up. But the reality is those fish are pretty much pre-spawn as soon as the ice comes off. Because by the end of April, they're going to be spawning and they're in that pre-spawn phase, for a few weeks, and then they get onto the bed. So you want to take advantage of those pre-spawn fishing because that's one of the times when you're going to have the best shot at catching a true giant. So anytime you're talking about that, some of the things I like to do is look for a little bit warmer water. What people don't realize, I think, a lot of times is on these large lakes, you can have a warm water that just moves around. It could be within a bay in itself. It could be where you've got just warm water that's being blown by the wind up into a bank. But a 1 degree difference can make a big difference when you're talking about chasing smallmouth. So one of my favorite baits to cover water with is this guy right here. This is the Berkeley Stunna. This is the +1 size, and this color specifically is the shad fillet. This is my go-to color when I'm chasing smallmouth. That little bit of chartreuse on the bottom will drive them wild. The key here is this is my search bait. This is the bait when I'm out there trying to locate where they're at in an area. I'm covering a lot of water with the jerk bait, and generally speaking, this will generate some of your biggest bites. At the same time, it draws a lot of interest, so you can see the fish chasing your bait back to the boat. You can pull them up off the bottom. You'll find those areas where the fish are grouped up because generally speaking, in the pre-spawn period, the smallmouth will be grouped up. It's not common to catch one fish in an area. Generally speaking, there's going to be a lot more of them with that one fish. So finding where they're at is going to be the first thing, and that's where I love the jerkbait. Once I've identified where they're at, the rest of these baits really come into play. The obvious one here is going to be a small swim bait as well. I love the Sight Flash color. This is the 3.3 Kitech Fat Impact. This to me is a bait that I can just slowly retrieve through those areas. I got it on an 1/8 ounce head, and it's just a slow retrieve where it's a tantalizing bait to the fish. So if you know they're in an area and you're slowly retrieving this bait, almost tight lining it and pendulum fishing it through those fish, they will come and eat this bait when they won't eat the jerk bait at times. So that's going to be a definite must for me. I like that sight flash color because not only can I see it pretty good, the fish can see it, and smallmouth are huge sight feeders. Another bait that's an absolute must for me is a black marabou hair jig. Some people call it the fluff. The key here is this is a small jig head with a bunch of marabou hair that just flutters through the water column. You don't want to hit the bottom with it. You want to keep it just off the bottom. It looks like a leech swimming through the water. To me, black is the primary color. You can throw, sometimes you can throw like a deep olive color, sometimes like a wine colored one, a kind of a reddish colored one can be good, or even a dark purple. But the all around color for me that works the most consistently is a black. This is one I tie myself, but there are some that you can buy. VMC makes one that's pretty decent. Um, who else makes one? There's a few out there. You can find a lot of local tires that make them, but to me, this is an absolute must, something I always have tied on. One of the keys with this is because you're using really light heads for the most part, is to put a little piece of like rubber or one of your, a chunk of one of your worms on the base just to add weight so you can cast them further. But that's a huge thing here with these guys is getting them out away from the boat. So I gotta have a black marabou. Then, obviously one of the stalwarts as well with smallmouth is going to be just your Ned rigs. This is the one that I generally would say is the most consistent. The best is just the straight Z-Man Finesse TRD. Green pumpkin is the color. Again, I'm going to choose. I've got it on the Finesse TRD head. So just a basic good Ned rig is something that those fish love to have. If they're not willing to come up off the bottom, I want to throw a bottom bait at them. And that's where I'm going to be throwing that little Ned. And last but not least, the old core tackle hover rig here. One of my favorites for rigging it up. I love throwing it on the 4 1/4 inch max scent flatworm. This is the Kobayashi color. This is a great one, or the green pumpkin is really good as well. Just standard, good, solid colors. Kind of just depends on the watercolor I'm fishing. If it's really, really clear water, I do like the Kobayashi. It kind of gives you the best of both worlds, where you have a bait fish kind of color on the bottom, and then you've got your darker green pumpkin on the top. If it's a little bit darker water, I like the straight green pumpkin, but this is going to give you that tantalizing, really slow fall around where those fish are at. So I just want to reiterate, it's all about locating where the smallmouth are at. So you want to cover water until you do that. A jerk bait's one of the best ways to do it. The swim bait can also work for that. But once you find where they're hanging out, you're going to be wanting to throw your Ned rigs, the hover rig, the marabou hair jig is another great one. You can still throw the jerk bait, you can still throw the swim bait in those areas, but it's all about slowing down. And once you find them, you've got a good area. But remember what I said in the beginning of this. It's all about water temperature. That water temperature is going to rotate throughout the course of the day. It can rotate by the hour. The fish are going to stay with that. So just because you're catching them off, say, a rock vein or a rock transition or a point, one day does not mean they're going to be there the next day. If that warmer water that was there when you found them has moved a little bit, those fish are going to follow that warm water. So just keep that in mind. Give these baits a whirl. We're getting to the point right now in most parts of the country where pre-spawn smallmouth fishing is definitely coming into play. Give these baits a try. I assure you, you will catch some big smallmouth. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know in the comment section what some of your favorite pre-spawn smallmouth baits are as well. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel. If you also enjoyed the video enough to like it, hit that like button. Stay tuned. We'll have a new one coming out tomorrow.